Hi Stephen, thanks for meeting with me today to go over Grosvenor's onboarding and recruitment procedures. I'm excited to get you up to speed on this for future onboarders.
Thank you for the opportunity. I'm really looking forward to expanding my scope within the business and being able to grow professionally.
Amazing, I love the enthusiasm. This training will take us roughly 20 to 30 minutes, give or take depending on what we get through. So please feel free to jump in at any time and ask me any questions that you might have. I've created a slide deck just to keep us on track, which will give us an overview of everything that we're covering today. I'll also provide you with the slide deck as a reference and a future guide to onboarding if you require a refresher. Obviously, I'm still here for you to ask any questions. But as we go, you'll see there are links to where we keep our documents in our CRM system, so you can refer back to those as well, and also links to our company SharePoint. Are you happy to get started, or do you have any questions before we start?
No, I think I'm happy to get started. I'll let you know if there's any questions as we go on.
Perfect, no problems. I'll get the slide deck up now. Feel free to take notes if you feel that you need to, or again, just stop me if something doesn't make sense. So I'll just start by getting our slide deck up. Okay, so this is our recruitment and onboarding training plan. It's basically a guide for applying the updated recruitment, candidate communication and onboarding process consistently.
Yep.
So we do try and just keep this the same for every onboarder that we have here at Grosvenor. The things that we'll be going through are recruitment, onboarding, and then we can have any questions at the end if you do have any. So we'll start with our recruitment. We have our early recruitment procedure, so that's when we're advertising for a job, people are applying. So the first thing that we want to do is create a position description, and as we're typically recruiting for our main 4 practices, so we've got procurement, public service advisory, program evaluation and property. We use the same template for each practice. The templates we change obviously depending on what practice it is and what we need, and the templates can be found in this link here, which we can go through later.
Perfect.
And once a template has been created, we usually use 2 recruitment platforms, and then we wait for the applications to come through. So the 2 technologies that we usually use are Seek and LinkedIn. There's also a third one which isn't actually a platform, which is word of mouth, so the staff referral. So we use these to post specific ads that we're recruiting for. And many of our staff though have come from referrals, and it's usually a referral from someone who they've worked with in the past, or someone who they've worked with knows a person.
Yep.
And a great thing about staff referrals here is that if this particular candidate does make it through the process, they stay for 6 months. You as the referrer, if you did refer someone, you get a $2,000 referral bonus. So
that's good.
Yeah, so anyone, if you know anyone that you think is perfect for the job, send their resume through to the people and talent manager, and then ideally they make it through probation and you get your referral bonus. The person who's in charge of this, so whose role this is the people and talent manager. So the people and talent manager, they'll sift through all the applications and they shortlist the candidates. Candidates will be shortlisted depending on their relevant experience and the criteria that's hit on our position descriptions in the advertisement. Once shortlisted, the people and talent manager, will give the shortlisted candidates a call, kind of just to get a feel for them, see what their personality is like, see if they're suitable for the position, and then if they kind of hit the criteria that we're after on that phone call, we'll then invite them in for a face-to-face interview with a case study to determine whether they're suitable for the role. Why a case study and what's a case study? So because we are a consulting company, we want to make sure that the consultants can work in a consulting industry. So we have a generic scenario that we give them. Usually in the case study, we'll have a senior person in the business and maybe a more junior person in the business. We will try and keep it where there is someone in a practice specific, they're in the same practice, I guess, of what we're recruiting for. So they know the questions that need to be asked, they know the thought process that we're kind of looking for. And we always try to have in the people who are involved in the case study, someone, like I said, who's in a practice, and then another person who's not in that practice, because we don't want to create a bias. The case studies run for roughly 2 hours, 2.5 hours, just depending on how fast the candidate gets through it, the questions that they're asking, the length of the case study and how long the candidate takes. That doesn't determine whether or not they get the role. It's whether they understand the scenario and they're hitting the points in the scenario that we need. So that's kind of our early recruitment procedure. Then whether someone is successful or unsuccessful. So what we want to do when we're communicating either way is that we're clear, timely, respectful, we meet the minimal requirements, and record keeping. So when I say clear, we're using our professional language. We're telling candidates the outcome at the stage they've been removed from the process. So whether that is actually when we had their initial phone call or after their case study, or, you know, we also actually do a cultural fit. If they don't really hit those marks, then we might have to give them a call and say, sorry, it's just not the right fit, obviously in our professional language. Timely, so we don't want to leave applicants waiting without an update on decisions. So currently anyway, it is a recruiter's market, so they're probably applying for all different places at the same time as well. So we don't want to lose someone just because we're too slow. So we want to make sure that if we know who we want, we're giving them a contract or we're calling them straight away. Respectful, obviously we want to be respectful because we want people to still have interest in the company. Somebody might be unsuccessful for this particular role, but they might be someone who we could have a role with in the future for them. So as long as we can keep a good relationship with everyone, we kind of like to keep the doors open. Minimum requirements relates to what we're letting them know. So if they're not successful, we're sending them an email and we're giving them a call. We're not just kind of leaving them blank and they don't know what's happening, or if we're just being slow, sort of things like that. We also, if it's a phone call, we will always follow up with written confirmation in an email, just to kind of tie everything up nicely. And then our record keeping, so everyone who we have interviewed, we have folders for. We'll just keep that email in the folder, and just so we know that they've not been successful this time around. Next part is onboarding. So this is a little bit of a longer procedure. So there's a lot of steps that are involved in this one. That's okay. The first step is we want to navigate to the People tab in our homepage, which you see on our SharePoint. That has kind of everything that you need in terms of onboarding, like contracts, induction templates, and anything that you can think of that relates to onboarding lives in that People tab. Following that, we have the employee contract template. So like I mentioned before, we have position description templates. We also have employee templates. So we've got templates whether you're a contractor, a part-time staff, a full-time staff, anything like that. So we select the correct template. We make sure that we put in all the relevant information. And before we send that out, and with sending that out, we're also sending them their Fair Work statement and with their appropriate work contract. Once we've input everything into kind of like a nice neat little bow, we're then sending this through, we're sending this through to a line manager and the managing director for approval. They review it, they'll approve it, and they'll let us know. Once we have approval from these people, we're going to then send out the contract with the Fair Work statement via DocuSign. We use DocuSign at the moment. We also, in the future, may be moving to different signing companies, but at the moment, DocuSign is, I think, working for us the best. Once we have received that contract back, we then send them out an acceptable use policy, an employee record form, and the tax file declarations. we do that straight after we won't do that with the contract, just in case, you know, they come back to us with anything that they need to change in the contract, or, you know, they might not sign a contract for any reason. Then for that reason, we don't need their whole employee details. So ideally we get all of this sent back, and then we save it into the staff folder, and then we're creating an onboarding tracker. So the onboarding tracker is here. It's an Excel spreadsheet that we're keeping, just to make sure we're keeping track of pretty much everything in the employee onboarding life cycle and the life cycle of their first 6 months of probation. So you can see here we've got completed by, and that's usually the people and talent manager. We'll put in the staff member's name, their start date, the office location. So again, it could be Melbourne, Sydney, Canberra, Adelaide, Brisbane, Melbourne. Their role level, their line manager, and their buddy. I'll go through line managers and buddies a little bit in a few slides, but you'll see those drop down boxes here on who we can select. So not everyone is a line manager yet. We do need to have specific training for someone to become a line manager. Underneath that, you'll see our key dates. So we've got a reviewer and the date. A reviewer for this is their line manager. So we just add in the reviewer there. Again, it's the same drop down box for the line managers. A mid-probation review date is usually 3 months into their tenure with Grosvenor, and then an end of probation review is 6 months. We, depending on that, you know, it doesn't have to be right on the date. We also do check-ins regularly, so the mid-probation review can change a little bit, but the end of probation review is always at that 6 month. You can see down here as well, we have an overall onboarding progress. So that relates to this right-hand side of everything. So as we're ticking off things that are done, that's going to 10%, 15%, all that, to see how we're going. So already we've, in this onboarding tracker, say if we've just gone through and we've sent everything that we discussed before, we can update the status of most of these here. So we can update the employee contract and fair work, the tax file declaration. I didn't mention before, sorry, but in our welcome emails, or a letter of offer, we will let them know that we do require a police check and a copy of their ID and any qualifications. So we reimburse them for their police check as well, which is, we let them know that in their email. So we can click completed and saved, as long as we've got them saved into their employee folder, excuse me. We've also sent out the acceptable usage policy and employee details form. So where it says to be sent, you can change that. If we've got that again, we just click those. And then we've got an induction pack, an induction passport, and a module summary. They're all actually now merged into one, which is in the induction pack. So once we send it out, I'll go through that after a little bit as well. The induction pack is basically a PowerPoint slide deck of what you can expect from Grosvenor, what your first day is going to be like, a little bit about what the company does and what they can expect while working with us. We then have an other checklist. So we want to make sure that every person who starts with us has the same experience. So everything is uniform across all offices, even though we only have one office manager for all of the locations and the people and talent manager live in one location. We want to make sure everyone's having that same experience. So what we do for a desk setup is have a laptop, a charger, screen, a mouse and a keyboard, stationery, chairs and drawers. The office manager and the people and talent manager, they usually will liaise with the site manager for each site, make sure we have those available. We also have an in-house IT rep, so we liaise with him to see, do we have a laptop available, do we need to organise, you know, chargers or a mouse or a keyboard, and we just make sure that's all available prior to the employee starting. And again, same thing, we want to update the status and mark as completed as it goes. We also have a checklist which you'll see, which I have linked to you in here, and it's pretty much it's a photo of what we want that desk to look like. So everyone's desk is looking the same. We do a welcome event for each staff member, and that is organised by the office manager. It's usually a lunch on their first day, just depending on maybe people's schedules. It could be a dinner or something, but lunch is usually best. It's a good way for them to get to know everyone in their office, and also just
Bit of
bonding and like just a chill first day kind of experience. And then you'll see down here we've got a welcome email sent to all staff. LM stands for line manager. So the line manager at some point through their first day will send out an email to the whole company. So for example, you've started with us, they'll say, hi everyone, I want you to welcome Stephen. He's starting as this position, his background in da 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 da, and we're excited for him to bring such and such to the business. So it's kind of an introduction to everyone else who hasn't met that person on their first day. We then do a welcome post on LinkedIn. So again, it's just a little bit about that person, and our marketing manager organises that. And then the office manager will put the start date into our hub, which is our SharePoint calendar. So again, if anyone navigates onto the homepage in the SharePoint, so again, our hub, we know that someone is starting. We then can move over to the right a little bit more because this is still prior to them starting. So the onboarding checklist, this section is for IT and internal documents. Office 365, that relates just to getting them set up with an email address, making sure they have access to Word, PowerPoint, Excel, all that sort of stuff. And that is with one of our external IT companies, so we liaise with them, get that sorted. The D365 account is our, it's kind of like our internal CRM system. So we have a different IT company who works for that. They'll get them set up on that. That's where our projects are stored. ProjectWorks, that is for our accounts department to set up. ProjectWorks is our invoicing system where you put leave and where you put your timesheets. So everyone needs to be in there just to make sure you're getting paid on time, the invoices are getting paid on time. Added to the local office group, that is each office has their own email address, so you can just do say like all staff Melbourne, all staff Sydney, and also add them into the office groups teams. So we all really use Teams to communicate. We then have office access, which is just like a fob or a key pass or a key to the office, a welcome gift, the laptop again, and a business card. The business card we usually only set up for people who are in a more senior level. The welcome gift is just a block of chocolate, and again you'll see that in a photo of what's expected on the first day. The internal documents to be updated. We have a phone list. There's two different sorts of phone lists. We have one for each office, and that's everyone who's in that office with their emergency contact number. And then we also have a company-wide phone list where you can just grab someone's number if you need it. A qualifications register. So that qualifications register has everyone. We have contractors and full-time and part-time staff. A qualification could be anything from a certificate to a diploma to a short course, master's degree, bachelor's degree, that sort of thing. We also have in there security clearances because we do work with a lot of government agencies. You need to have a certain level of security to be able to work with them. So we like to keep the qualifications register updated so that way we know if we're going for a project, then we know who we can actually have on that project, because security clearance can sometimes take almost like 6 months to get, depending on what clearance you're after. We have an organisational chart, which I'll show you a little bit later, but it's just everyone who works in the business, who they are, where they are, kind of like their location in Australia, I guess. The employee details list. In that we have the employee's name, address, date of birth, their tenure, any dietary requirements, and we also put in there any diversities that someone has. And a digital signature, which we do that for any signing of our documents, and we also update their birthday into the SharePoint or the hub. prior to them starting, we have modules. So when we're onboarding someone, we have a list of modules that we want to get through. The modules are an aim to make the new employee feel comfortable about the work that we're doing, who to go to for what, and it just gives an overview of each practice. So for example, someone might have only ever worked in the procurement space their whole consulting career. They might not know anything on program evaluation or public sector advisory. Just gives them a download of what that is, projects that we're currently working on, and then any other questions they have. You know, they might then end up being interested in program evaluation instead of property, and you know, it's a way for them to move into something new as well. So we have a bunch of modules there, and you can see who's the deliverer. These are the main people who usually deliver them. Other people can, and we have a folder saved of all the modules so that anyone can actually deliver them. It's just, you know, who's available at the time. I'm just gonna have a sip of water, sorry. Oh, Coke. We have additional modules, Consulting 101, Consulting 202, Quality Thinking, and then extra learning courses. We have a $2,000 learning budget. So that's what that bottom one there means. So it's have they used their learning budget? Is there anything perhaps that they are interested in using it for, and we can explore that with them. Consulting 101 is a mandatory full day affair, and we usually bunch that in with any new starters. So for example, when I started, there wasn't many new starters. Even though I'm not a consultant, I still did Consulting 101. When we had more, say maybe about 3 people start, then we did a group consulting. It's a kind of a collaborative session, and it's a good way to ask questions and just learn about consulting. And then I'll take us back over to the left here, which is our first day or week checklist, and I'll go over that more next because it's actually a whole list of what we need. I'm conscious that we're running out of time, sorry. So for the modules, this is a bigger pack of how long the modules go for. We've got it color coded for who usually delivers these modules, and in the time frames that we like to do them. So we like to have the modules done pretty much within the first 2 weeks. We don't want to leave anything later. Again, we don't want the new starter to feel forgotten or underprepared, or thrown into a project and they don't really know what's going on in the company. The induction pack, so like I mentioned before, we do send out an induction pack to new starters prior to their first day. An induction pack lets them know all the information that they need for their first day, so the time that they're starting, where they're working, who's in the company, all that sort of stuff. So that looks like this. So you can see here, we do their name, their title, so whether they're starting as a consultant, a senior consultant, manager, etc. Location, where they're starting, their start date, day and month. We always get them to start at 10 a.m. This is for them to ease into the day, as well as for us in the office to get ready, remind anyone when we have our 9 a.m. meetings that this person's starting, welcome them, all that sort of thing. This is a quick guide to welcoming them at Grosvenor, and the pack takes them through getting to know more about us, the people we'll be working with, the work they're completing, and what they can expect within their first 3 to 6 months, and a brief induction to consulting at Grosvenor. But that's kind of more in their modules. And we have over here, we're introducing them to their line manager and their buddy. So a line manager is usually someone who is more senior to them. And like I said, not everyone can be a manager. We have manager training, so it's usually manager, senior manager, or associate director level. They're usually in the same office as the new starter, whereas a buddy, for example, that can be anyone. Usually it's someone at the same level as you. Like when I say level, I mean if they're a consultant, that's okay. Consultant or a senior consultant. We do like them to be in another office, because we do use Teams so much to connect, and we're working with people from other offices so often. It gives that person then a chance to get to know someone else. And you're not just sticking
Stuck
with
to the one person.
We have the essentials, so we've got the start time here, we then show them also the dress code. So we tell them the dress code. We're not overly formal, we dress for the day. If you're not seeing a client, casual, corporate, comfort. If you are seeing a client, try and dress up a little bit nicer. And then we have your desk, what your desk is going to look like. So it's basically a rundown of the photo that we have on the hub of what we can expect for the first day. The employment documents that we need. So the acceptable usage form, tax file, acceptable usage agreement, the police checks, copy of IDs, their qualifications, and if they are not an Australian citizen, any visa documentation that they need. And then we have, so this is like meeting the team. So we've got highlighted here your or the, so depending what office they're in, you'll see who they are. And we will add another one of these little squares to them and kind of say, you're here, so you're in the team. So we've got this for all the offices. And then this is update as needed. We'll put a photo of the person in there. So we put a photo of their line manager and their buddy, just so they, again, can kind of put a face to the name before they've met them. This is our organisational chart. So you can see we've got our executive leadership team, our consultants, where they're from, and our support staff down here. Getting to know us, so we want to make sure that the new starters get to know everyone and feel comfortable with everyone. So it's just letting them know to introduce yourself, book in coffee chats if you can, that sort of thing. Letting them know about company events. So we've got the conference, we've got the share fairs. They're always invited to that. More on company events, our Christmas celebrations. We've got benefits of Grosvenor, more benefits supporting the health and well-being of staff at Grosvenor. So just a rundown of everything. They do go through these in the modules, but it's just a nice to have before they start. And then we end up basically to feel welcome to Grosvenor. This is a rundown of the first day checklist. So we do this by time, and it's just kind of how we want their day to run. So we want to have greetings, introductions, an office tour, catching up with the site manager, catching up with the people and talent manager, get them logged into everything, and we have their lunch break or their work event. We give them some time to sort of set their desk up. So we do like to have just everything set out for them on that first day. So they're not just sitting there thinking, oh my God, what am I doing? I have no idea. Yeah. And again, you don't have to completely stick to this time frame. It's more of a, besides the lunch that's booked in, it's kind of like these are what we suggest that you do today. Get to know the hub, feel comfortable, and then speak to them if you have any questions. For ongoing onboarding, like I mentioned before, you have your line managers and buddies to check in with, and we have a 3-monthly mid-probation review and a 6-monthly end of probation review. At any time, anyone from all offices can give feedback to the line manager for these reviews, but that's not to say that these two are the only catch-ups that you can have. So you can have weekly catch-ups, daily catch-ups. Anything that an onboarder needs will be there. So it doesn't matter what question it is, or if they're struggling with something, you don't have to wait for these set dates. That will take us to any questions. So I maybe have some questions for you just now of a couple of scenarios maybe that could happen. So I guess scenario 1, if a candidate has completed a phone screen but isn't progressing to the interview stage, what communication should they receive?
An email to let them know if they're successful or not. Yep,
perfect. An employee starts next week and they might not know what to wear or who to meet, so what time to come into the office. What should we do before they start?
We could send them out an induction pack prior to starting, where they can have their information on what they have and can expect.
Yeah, perfect. The new starter says that they're unsure on the role and their expectations, and it's week 2. Who should they go to?
They should check in with their line manager or either their buddy.
Yeah, perfect. Did you have any questions before we wrap up?
I would like to I'd like some more information on the induction pack. What if they are starting within a week or so? How early do they send it out?
Yeah, perfect. So we ideally, with the induction pack, want to get that out as early as possible. And we know that sometimes, a lot of places will have a 4-week period where they start. Some don't. Some might be out of work and they say, I'm ready to start next week. So in that case, we will send it out as soon as we've got all of the contracts signed. And we'll check in to make sure that they have their induction pack prior. So say it's Wednesday, they want to start on Monday, we're getting all of that pre-onboarding done Wednesday, Thursday, and then we'll check in with them on Friday and make sure that they're ready for Monday. Perfect. I know that's so much information in one go, so I'll send you this pack. If you have any questions, you can refer to it, but again, just give me a call or send me a Teams message over in the office at the same time. Just grab me, we can go through it again. That's onboarding, and maybe when we get our next new starter, you can help me with getting them onboarded.
Thank you. That was good.
Perfect. Thanks, Stephen.
Thank you.